say is Rahubat, giving praises to the Most High within and the Most High that reflects without. In and out is what we're talking about. As we redefine what's going down in America. And we're going to change it from the biblical sense, and we're going to take it to the next level. I'm going to be in your ear for a minute, and it's going to represent, as you see that light right there, that particular light is the life force energy within you. And once you see that, you're going to put something there. So your eyes, you as one individual, will be able to see. And those that surround you will be able to recognize the greatness that's within you is the greatness that's within them. And it gets to what we call the programming. It gets to what we call the programming. And this is what we're here now to address. We're here to address the programming of those people that need to be adjusted. It's all about the programming. When they say it's all about the Benjamin, the sons coming together. Brother's going to work it out. Ben represents the son. So we had a lot of people who had seen what was going on from another perspective. When I say another perspective, I'm saying they seen it from a view of globalization. And in their travels, they couldn't feel the pains. They didn't appreciate the efforts of others. So we're going to cut and paste. Right. We're going to cut and paste. We're going to cut and paste. And we're going to continue. I say Rahubat because that's what I say. And there's no explanation to you. There's no explanation. You do what you do because of your programming. So as we continue to expand and make moves, who I am Elohim Society. Elohim Society. Okay. And with that right there, I'm in the Midwest, Northern, and Southern districts, where we have a triad putting together for your concern. I want to give a shout out to those who have helped me thus far. I know there's a lot of rhetoric. I know there's a lot of competition. There's no competition with this. Those who are trying to be, continue. It's like you're doing the paddle, the dog paddle in the water. Your swimming can be defined as, but at the same time, you're not going anywhere. But you preserving, you're on a mode of survival. You're in a survival mode, and it's okay. And from that survival mode, we do have a continuation of those who are successful in completing their terms to qualify to step into the what we call the now, or to remain in the now. That's what I would like to teach. So I'm going to big shout out to Reverend C.B. Zaduk, who's no longer here. He's out there somewhere, but no longer in contact. Doc New York, big shout out. Kenneth Black, Nina, to all the Ninas. Big shout out to Lillian here, and the Lillian that has passed over. We say passed over, that exceeded, that in her deed is still recognized. Big shout out to my chief, which is Chief Tommy. And thank you for all your advice, your guidance throughout the years. So I will be able to understand what's living in me as far as the soul, the energy, from your perspective, from your thoughts, from your experience. Big shout out to Chief Tommy. Big shout out to Aliyah for your completion of the faith, the deen. And those who know, for those who don't, for those who will, for those who won't. Big shout out to Aliyah. And big shout out to Miss Price. A price that was paid by the sacrifice and unselfishness. Thank you. Big shout out to N. Garcia, NB Garcia, NB Garcia, for your determination and your correction, your observation towards the future, your observation in the now, and your commitment in the life that you were given. Big shout out to C. Haywood. And the Grant family. Big shout out to every member of the Grant family, the Karras family, the Muhammad family, the Hall family, the Wade family. Big shout out to all the Ansarul Allah. Big shout out to all the Ansarul Allah. Big shout out to all the Islamic Hebrews. Big shout out to all the Hebrews. Big shout out to all the Muslims. Big shout out to all those who are Christian and are willing to learn and accept and giving and practicing the love. Big shout out. Big shout out to the Hendersons, BK, and the Hendersons, BX. Big shout out to Mr. Tiny, Miss Tiny, for your dedication, communication from this part to the other part, collaboration. Big shout out for the determination and being in a survival mode for the Richardson family. Everything that's been done was planned. And those who continue to do the same thing will get the same results. I am a change. I represent change. I represent change and the continuation of the best. Big shout out to Peaches, Akelia. The best part of anything I ever went through was Akelia. The best part of anything I ever went through was Akelia, who gave me determination to reach other sisters to help and resurrect them from the mentally dead state of mind that they were in. Big shout out to Carol for your expertise in education and programming and observation. Big shout out to Malika, Malika Queens, Malika Brooklyn. Big shout out to Malika Queens. One day, I hope to really get to see you and embrace you. Big shout out to Khartoum. Never forgotten, always remembered, always thought about, always in love. Big shout out to Anne for the receptive when I got here as a spirit in this body. Big shout out to Valdina Townsley, who helped and guided and didn't, very professional, but didn't know that we were changing our walk. We wasn't walking like those, and that's because of the teachings that I had prior to getting hit by the light. See, I'm not afraid to say I get hit by the light. I'm not afraid to say those who thought they got hit by the light got hit by the light because of those that was around that got hit by the light, and we gave them a dose of our energy. I'm not ashamed. I'm bold, and that's why people do not want to walk with me, because it's real. This is not a fake expedition. This is not fake at all. Okay, but big shout out to Valdina for your service and those that was around you in management. I appreciate that. So it says, if you look outside our body with the gift of our senses called sensors, our senses are sensors. And on the physical realm, there's 5 senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and feeling. So this is what we're using now, and this is what we are acknowledging, because we're using more senses, extra sensory perception, for those who don't perceive the extra senses, or even though they are working, they're just not acknowledged. But I just want to let you know that you are an electromagnetic energy. It's like that thing right there. That's how your energy, which is called chi, goes up and down your body. Okay? So within that, your electromagnetic energy, it flows from beyond the sun to what is now called Earth. Okay, so we are connected to what you call the heavens, or the Orions, or the stars. We are connected. We're not disengaged. Now, as far as the perception, as far as the intellect of what and who we are, that's not happening. But anyway, you must learn how to link up with the energy grid that's around the Earth. That's the first thing. You have to link up with the energy that surrounds the Earth. And that is a broad statement. That statement not only consists of the energy from the sun, but it also consists of the energy within you and each and every one that you see. We draw in and we utilize energy. Okay. Now I'm gonna give a big shout out to some names, and hope your name is on in here, and it reflects your higher thinking. You're not lonely. You may be lonely on the top, but you are recognized. And this is Ariel, Rachel, Faziza, Faiza, Vivian, Lillian, Alice, Shireen, Edie, Ina, Rosalind, Rita, Monica, Sika, Truth, Ill Skills, Queen Bee, Queen Isis, Sally, Sarah, Joyce, Yogi, Diane, Linda, LA, Carol, Rihanna, Jackie, Doreen, Janet, Mary J, Diana, Regina, Sakina, Christine, Gloria, Eloise, Patricia, Louise, Josephine, Clara, Jackie, Mother Earth, Kim, Dana, Mukmina, Fatima, Jasmine, Cookie, Deborah, Sister, Crystal, Angela, Ara, Caroline, Candace, Anitris, Talia, Maurice, Malika, Kathy, Deborah, Dee Dee, Benita, Octavia, Kenyetta, Kima, and Helen. All those particular names, if you know someone with those names, you have helped somebody with those names, they have helped you, they bring about a hub of righteousness. They bring about a hub of righteousness. So we're going to start off right now with this prayer for the original people. And as we get to explain what happened on one note, on the biblical terms, and then from the biblical terms to the bloodline of where we at now, and from the factual things of what's happening, then we can come together with the sister, brother movement. And it will be sister, brother, learn to live with one another. But it says, "Oh, Most High, Lord of all the knowing worlds, keep us in your remembrance with the supreme knowing to free ourselves from the traps of our oppressors. O Most High, do not let us deviate from your truth by way of abuse from the many things that have been created to fool us. Fools that hurt the temple you have given us for the protection of our souls. O Most High, help those who have surrendered to the ways of love and compassion for the world. We know that each day you have a job for us to do. Aid us in your righteousness toward those who have returned to the animal kingdom. Let us take hate and worry from our lives. In your name, we continue to give love to the world." And I'm going to say Rahubat. I want you to learn that. I want you to learn that. Rahubat. Okay, so what's going on now? I am Escape Master Spark, Anan Gabriel 19 from the Elohim Supreme Team, Elohim Society, Way Jesus Ministry, MDK Ministry, Sparkle Roller Dance Company, Principles of Love, Chakosha, There's many hats that I've helped and established, so you will be able to walk through many doors and find relief and help. Okay, we're going to start off with chapter 1 of what we call the Bible, and we're going to begin all acts and thinking by using El Qanun, which means the all. And this particular chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1, it was revealed in 1512 BCE, before the Christian era. And let's when we say BCE, then we skip right along, and we don't really tell you what BCE means, what BC and how BCE made changes to the ongoing now that we live in the now. So BCE was before the Christian era. So when you say before the Christian era, you're still actually saying before. Era is a mistake. So when you say Christian, it was a name that was given to those who were disciplined, those who were in the community of the Essenes, and those were given to them by others who had not wanting to flow with that movement. So they started their own movement, which you'll get into. So prior to that, when Rome, which is the extension of United States today, when they particular was falling, what happened was when Rome was falling, they embraced the teachings of the disciples and took their teachings and used their teachings and incorporated their lifestyle. So they made a change, and this is what we call Christian today. So if you have something that's 50% of the truth and 50% of the lie, you have something that can be utilized and something that has to be washed out and cleansed. So now, I'm not here to dispute with anyone because we above that. I am the original Dr. New York. You want to call it Doc York. You can call it what you want to call it. You don't have to call it anything. I am who I am. Okay? So all those who, because of protection, erection, greed, from any movement and claim individualism, that's what they wanted to do. That was their prerogative, and that's who they represented. Okay, so anyway, chapter 1, a Yahuwah and the Elohim. Now we're talking about a Yahuwah and the Elohim. So just come with me, ride with me, and we're going to see, we're going to eat off the plate of righteousness. And you'll see. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, we will see the words, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay? So now, even before we go into that, the word God is a German word. What is German? Germ is a germ. Man with the germ. The man of a germ. Okay? Broken down in Leviticus as many germs, or leproma, or lemmet, or leprosy. Today, translated in the terminology of the medical field as leprosy, see, or what we call many uh, effects of the leprosy that is not given to those who are educated or programmed to work. That wasn't their business. Their business was to learn mannerism, learn to be obedient, and learn their particular chore or responsibility in the workforce that is now called forced labor or human resources, the resource of human beings. Okay. So now we got the word God is a German word. That's not the word that we use. But we have to use that because that's your programming. And so until we get it out, again, overlap, doing the double stitch, that's what's going on. Okay, so in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, we see the words, in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. The word in Aramaic Hebrew for God is Elohim. Now this word Elohim is a plural. It has a plural meaning, which means these beings are gods, but it's not in the singular form of one God. So we're talking about angelic beings. We're talking about the host. We're talking about a group of specialized, and they call them angelic people, or they call them Anunnaki, or they call them angels, or they call them Elohim. Okay? So the Elohim came down to earth to reconstruct the earth from the prior creation of earth. Okay? Anyway, as it states here, a plural meaning these beings are gods, but not the single God. It's making reference to a group of Elos, a word meaning these. These Elohims, Anunnaki, or Malakats are called angelic beings. From the Greek word angelos, or messenger of Al or El, messenger of El Elo, who is Anu or Allah. Now that's a lot of things being said right there. And most people didn't have the time, didn't really care, because they're in a survival mode. So they don't really care. But we're going over because now it's time to get in and to explain those things that was unexplainable, not explained. And this is what we're doing now. So it says the Greek angelos, or the messengers of Al, or Al, or El, the messengers of El Elo, who is Anu or Allah, while on earth, they are physical beings. Elohims are both Toby, which means agreeable, and Ra, which means disagreeable. So you have disagreeable and disagreeable, disagreeable and agreeable, Toby and Ra. It's very, very important. So now we're talking about some people that's disagreeable and some people that's not agreeable. But we're now talking about agreeable towards what, from what, how, what, and whatever. Okay? So now, let's keep it moving. The Torah, right, now it goes into the Torah, which is the book that I'm reading from, the Torah, right, which is consists of the first 5 books of Musa or Moshe, right? They also call these people giants. or Nephilims. Now, the word Nephilim means those who fell down, from the root as in Genesis 6:4, Naphtali. Genesis 6:4, Naphtali means those who fell down. Okay? Not the word Naphtali means to fall. Now, this is the interpretation that you're getting. Their craft did crash down in the Persian Gulf, a place they call Eridu, from which the word Eretz and Ad, or earth, comes from. Elohim is called also Anunnaki, meaning those who are Anu, those who Anu sent down from heaven to keep. Now, introducing different words, heaven, Ki, Anu, earth, Eretz. This is very, very important. This will take you out the translation of the king, right, which is dealing with the state. So when you say separation between church and state, when you say separation between church and state, you're saying the state was those who the people chose to represent them, which they wanted kings to represent them. So they chose kings. Now, when you're talking about the church, okay, that's the English corrupt word for, okay, church. Now, when the church also represent the temple represent what they call the mosque. Okay, so now when we're talking about those people from the church, we're talking about those who were inspired, those who were giving a little extra something, or been activated with the extrasensory perception to perceive that which the ordinary people were not programmed to recognize. So they were called prophets, they were called Rasul, they were called Nabi. Okay? So now that's the difference between church and state. Okay. Those who are new sent down from heaven to keep. The key is the cuneiform word for earth. So now you got the word key, which is QI, which is the cuneiform word for earth. Now, cuneiform is a language that precede or was before the translation of the Bible, or what we call Amharic, which was Hebrew, Arabic, Syriac, or English. So you have books that was wrote before the Bible, and every empire or generation, they would renew from their translation for their rulership, and they would discard that was before them, and they would translate something so the people would be accustomed to what they were talking about. Okay. So now we go on to the cuneiform word for earth, from which you get the word G is key, which is QI, and that's where you get the word GE, and GEO for geology. Geo, which is the ology means the study of, and geo is the earth. The Elohim were called Netiru. So today we are called Elohim. Those who brought back the now in memory of before, it was called Netiru. The Elohim are your host that does the work of El, called also the heavenly host. So that's who I am in a nutshell. I am a heavenly host. H and H. H and H. A heavenly host. It's called Teshuvah. The word host is called Teshuvah. Tsawbaw. Tsawbaw. Teshuvah. Okay? They are called Teshuvah while on earth, then they are called El, who is under Al, E-L-A-L. The word Elohim is used for human beings, as in Exodus 7th chapter, the first verse. So if you go to Exodus, the 7th chapter, the first verse, you will see. So Moses was also a Elohim, as in Genesis 1:1, which was a Elo, a god of the Elohim. Now, there are no capital G's or small g's in the Hebrew, no big G or small g's. That's all a division, or what we call a hoax, a trick. The capital letters and the small letters is based on the capitalistic system of the rich and the poor. It's a caste system. And we'll go into that at a later date. The Greeks and the Latin translated not to be found in the original Hebrew. Throughout the Torah, you have different names for God used in Aramaic Hebrew, which means that these different gods, or what we call Elos, right, and together they call Elohim, who possess different names, had different personalities, they had different responsibilities, they were a part of the total, they were part of a supreme team. And this is what those who are Christians have no ability to comprehend. You tell them or you tell them not, it does not make a difference. And those who want to, with loose lips, speak of things to hurt those who are anointed can never do it. They just can never do it. It's impossible. It's not possible. Not possible at all. So those who are programmed to destroy themselves are doing it at a rapid pace. Because as we'll learn from the heavenly host that I am, that's living within me, there is no time. And that's what those who were greedy and those who, cheated, got relaxed. They thought they won. They thought this was going to be fun. Now they find themselves duplicated and you have more of themselves acting like them, unsure, debating. This is not a debate. Not only this is not a debate, not only this is not a debate, this is a collective. This is a collective. So it's a lot of names I didn't say. That's a part of this research. And this is for you. This is to unravel you. Because what I came to do is to explain that which is not written. So once you write it, if it's wrong, it's an attempt. That's that 50-50. I'm neutral. I can say, yeah, this you can bring this on. No, this don't go. This yeah, bring this on. This don't go. That's all it is. That's what it do. Okay, now throughout the Torah, you have different names for God used in Aramaic Hebrew. Okay, now these are when you say that right there, you're saying translations from that Aramaic Hebrew. So you're not talking about their real name. You're talking about translations, which means that these different gods who possess different names have different personalities. Now look at the Elohim, for instance, which appears 682 times in the 5 books of Genesis. Now Genesis chapter 1 says, in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Elohim is an Aramaic Hebrew word. The ending yad or mean, yad mean, gives you a plural. It is a plural form of Elo, which makes it a group of deities and not one. These Elohim can be physical or ethereal. Now, we're talking about physical beings, we're talking about ethereal beings. Okay. We're talking about in a physical body, and we're talking about recognize the force of outside of the body. We're talking about being connected with a powerful force. We're talking real talk. Okay, I just wanted you to know that. Exodus chapter 7, verse 1, declared Moses as the Elohim to the Pharaoh, Ramses II. But the state of Yahuwah says to Moses, see, I have Nathan given or made or granted. So the word Nathan means granted. So you are granted thee as an Elohim to the Pharaoh. It means the Yahuwah had anointed Moses into the order of the Elohim. And this particular order is called Saduk. When you're in the order of the Elohim, you're called a Saduk. When you're in the order of the Elohim, you're called Saduk. So when you write your name, you say you are Saduk. Period. You're in the order of the Elohim, you are Saduk. Zodek. Okay? Saduk means the righteous. The word Saduk means the righteous. The word Saduk means the righteous. Thus Moses became an Elohim, and if you base that on Genesis chapter 1 and their translation, we're telling that the book of Genesis was translated. We're telling you other books that give you a clearer understanding if you took your time to study and find thyself approved of what's going on. And then by other ways too, what we call ESP or extrasensory perception, by activating your higher senses. Okay? Now, Moses became an Elohim, and if you base that on the Genesis chapter 1 and their translations, Moses is made one of the Elohims by Yahuwah, which was the Lord. Lord, the word Lord means master and teacher. Okay? The first time you see Yahuwah Elohim, meaning Yahuwah of the Elohim, then it repeats it through that whole chapter. In Genesis 3:1, he becomes Elohim. Again, where it states the Lord God, Yahuwah of the Elohim, has Ashur. The word Ashur, Awsaw, Ashur, means made or fashioned. Okay. And he said unto the woman, Yea. Hello. That was the blessed Id. That's the Id. And these Ids is the holidays of the timeline and the bloodline of the prophet who were chosen to be an Elohim, a guide to the people, which was Muhammad, from the tribe of Quraysh. That was the Id, saying Id, happy Id, blessed Id. Okay. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Elohim God said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? So, the Elohim had told Eve not to eat of the tree of the garden. But she did it anyway. And we're not going to make correction on it. All we're going to do is perfect a way where things will be changed. Okay. That is Nakash. Nakash was the serpent man, referring to the Yahuwah Elohim as simply did the Elohim. But the name of the one was Nakash, who was speaking to the woman, which is called Eve. And why was her name Eve in the translation of the English? The word Eve, they say Eve represents evil. But if you look at the word evil, E-V-I-L, the word evil is L-I-V-E. So that would not constitute the word evil as being something that was bad. The word Eve also represents, depending on the status of the individual, it represents evolution to those who take the biblical doctrine and use it on a scientific term. Now, certain people use the biblical and use it for the bloodline, and certain people take the biblical and use that to mask their actions in this society, which is called a capitalistic society, and they use it for the science of the policy of the political. And the policy of the political is to control the people. Now that's dealing with what we call the state. Or the state is the status. The status is something that's made up or man-made. Okay, so we got that. Take time, think about it, go get a pen and paper, write it down. I know that right now, it's not too many people that's here, but I'm leaving a legacy. So I'm in and out of your precious mind, bam, bam, and in the next, before the change of time. From the galaxy of truth is where I come from. It's above your silly games of wannabe, debating, your silly games of getting high, your silly games of you thinking that you're having fun. I'm an intelligent light force, and you better believe representation from another galaxy. I'm only here to motivate and select few, and then I'll show them what to do as I take their old body and I make it brand new. I line up their chakras and tune up their mind so the spark of love will shine through their eyes. See, to show you the science of the circle and the square, shapes create illusion, and both of them appear. Now, it says, did the Elohim tell you this, speaking to a group? And he continues to repeat in verse until he gets into the word God's in your English translation, which confirms that all the time it was plural. For it uses the same word Elohim, not how it was worded. For God, written as a single in English, yet have it Elohim in Hebrew, doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods. When you eat of the tree of good and evil, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods of the earth. That's what's going on now. And here, gods is written as a plural in English. The Hebrew, it's the same word Elohim. This verse confirms that Elohim throughout the Bible is plural and not singular. Then it picks up into the verse 8, using Yeshua Elohim again, continued through the end of chapter 3. Now in Genesis chapter 4, Yahuwah is used by itself for the first time. And the use of Yahuwah continues as a singular into the verse 25, where Elohim is used without Yahuwah. At this point, the Elohim are declaring Seth as theirs, stating, she has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. The Elohim was speaking about Hawa, which is Eve. Verse 26 of chapter 4 declares the calling on or the worshiping of Yahuwah as an individual. And that's what's going on today. You have to call on the Elohim. You have to call on the Holy Host. And there's not somebody that you cannot see. Why would somebody that you cannot see help you? How can somebody that you can't see help you? That is a trick. That's what you call tricknology. You were given 5 senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, feeling. Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and feeling. Those senses are what is going to help direct you, and those senses are going to be utilized by that who help you as the heavenly host. But you've been programmed to believe in the unseen. This is why Jesus said you have to come through him. So he left a legacy. So now the legacy is disputed. And legacy will say, well, I don't believe that. Okay, because belief is this and belief is that. That was one way of using the letters to put together words. There's other words too, which we'll explain down the road. Okay, verse 26 declares the calling or the word. So verse 4, chapter 4, 26, it says, declares the calling on or the worshiping of the Yahuwah as an individual. And it states, then began men, which in the word men means from. M-I-N means from. Okay? So when you say men, I'm a man, M-A-N, M-E-N, M-O-N, M-U-N, M-I-N, it means from. So now they're saying that the man, and they call them Enocytes from Eno. And Enocyte phonetically, Enocytes phonetically is no sight. You can't see. You have no sight. So you have to call upon the Lord. You have to cry upon the Lord. And if the Lord hears you, then the Lord will help you. Okay, so now it says then began men, Enocytes, to call upon the name of Yahuwah the Lord. The statement then ooze makes it clear that at this point prayer to one Yahuwah was established. Again, in Genesis 5, the next chapter, it takes you back into the genealogy of Adam, where it says Elohim created man, which is called Adamites, or created these beings, created man, created from the ground these beings, created these beings, and blessed these people. So these people were created as what they call Enocytes, people of the ground, or what they call animal, Ani from Anu, and Mal, which means king, from Malakut. So animal is Ani and Mal together. Okay? It is used to the point, not Enocytes. Genesis chapter 5 takes you back to the genealogy of Adam, where it says Elohim created man. The word Adamite or Adamites is used at this point and not Enocytes. So they're going back and forth, talking about Adamites, right? And it's literally said in verse 2, blessed then Thum, and they called their the name Adam, in the day when they were created. The name Lord or Yahuwah again picks up in verse 29. So that's 529, Genesis 5th chapter, 29 verse, as the one who cursed the ground during Noah's time. Yet chapter 6 states that men, which was the Adamites, were multiplying on the face of the earth. So for a man to multiply, what have you seen? What man have you seen multiply on planet Earth? What from? The word man means from. It has nothing to do with gender. The word gender is gene and der. Der is a word for majestic, superior, majestic. Dear this, dear that. And gene is for genealogy, from the genes that was created, the genes in the cells. So gender has nothing to do with sexual preferences, has nothing to do with the separation. It has something to do only with the separation of the people. And that's where the Fatia comes in. And it breaks down, the gathering of the people. Okay. So now, getting back to this, chapter 6 states that men were multiplied on the face of the earth, and Baeth, daughters were born unto them. Now, when you talk about Baeth And the B, the B, the D, and the P is the same letter on the lowercase. So you say path, bath, and dath, right? Okay. So when you're talking about bath, and then you say sab bath, you say every 7 days the woman light the fire to remember her ability to be the earth or be as like the earth, which is another living organism. The earth is a living organism which grow fruit, grow this. Women grow children, produce children. So women is a part of nature, and all nature protects the woman while she's in that particular body. The body is a vehicle. Your body is not you. Your body is to accommodate you. Okay? So now it says that the men, the Adamites, it goes from a group of people, men, to a group of people, Adamites, will multiply on the face of the earth. And Baal, daughters were born unto them. So it breaks it all. It's the same thing. He's talking about the women. And I'm talking about the man, as in those who can't be able to procreate or the seed carriage. They're not into that right now. This is something that was done to distract and to bring the dominant masculine force, which is considered to be the destructive force and not the feminine energy, which is the creative force. They're trying to separate the yin and the yang. They're trying to separate life and death. They're trying to control, and the word control is the continual rule. Control. Continue, ROL, rule. Row, circle, cipher is the original, is the cipher or the circle before, or the zero before the one. So man say he is first, sure, you're first. You got that. But you from the mother, and that's my other, or me out of her, M for me, OT out, and HER, other, me out of her. Okay. This is the next step towards the unity of the gathering of all the people. Okay, sister, brother, it's time to learn to live with one another. Okay, now we're going back into Genesis, and we're in chapter 6, verse 2 speaks of the return of what is called the Bani, or the Elohim, who are the sons of what they call God. All right, or the sons of Elohim. Okay, verse 3 picks up with this. Yahuwah spoke out about his Ruach. Ruach, Rookh. Ruach. Ruach means soul. Okay, now the word soul is actually the word Sal, S-A-L. So when they say soul, they still not taking you everywhere you need to go, because a lot they just don't know. So it's not that people are doing things intentionally, because I can't look at people to do things intentionally. That's not my business. Once you go past a certain reach, like you have an aura, your arms that's your space. That's your space. Once you go past that space, that's on you. But if I can help you to get you back on the path, help you to get back on Sarat al-Mustaqim, which is called by the bloodline and the timeline of Abraham through his first son, right? which was Ibrahim, which means that the Most High would hear. That means that that crew of the heavenly host was watching. You never got lost. We never got lost. Time is not like that. People's mind is tricked. They're out of their thinking process. That's it. Okay. So now it says, it picks up with this Yahuwah spoke out about his soul not always staying with man, because he is also flesh. Meaning Yahuwah was flesh like those who are Adamites now, and will only stay with them for 120 years. Verse 4 speaks of the Nephilims, which means those who fell downward to the earth, translated as giants living on the earth in those days. It states that the Bani, or the Elohim, which was the son of the original Elohims, came into those who were of duplication, which is the word Baeth, of those, and they bear them children. The word children in the Bible is italicized to say that the word is not there. The statement is, and they bore Gobori, or mighty men. Like I'm saying, the word man or men is not a gender. It means from. So it is saying they brought the mighty. They brought the mighty from the creation. That what was creation. They brought something very powerful to the earth. Okay. Which of Olam? Okay, now it says bore, they bore Gobori. The word Gobori means big. But here it says mighty man, which was Olam translated. The word Olam means poorly, as old, meaning everlasting or eternal or perpetual, or the ancient ones were of, and the English word being used, the renown, for renown is sham, which means air vehicles or rocket ships, simply means up there. So it's a lot going on right there. And the explanation was given, and boom, 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 and other things started happening, and people really didn't get it. So now people running around, they done missed it. They done missed the foundation. They stuck in another situation that they put themselves in. So we're gonna keep it moving. Verse 5 of chapter 6 of the book of Genesis simply brings back the point that the Elohim saw the wickedness of those people, which is called Adamites. And it was great. It was the wickedness. They were acting like animals. They didn't let the supreme knowledge kick in. They didn't want to be programmed to do righteous deeds. They wanted to be destructive. They wanted their animal nature to get with them. So that's what happened there. And that everything in their mind, their imagination, their thoughts, their heart was, they put the word evil in there. But like I said, the word evil cannot really describe. They will say disagreeable. We'll say not productive for the next generation. Not production for those and appreciation of those who help establish them, their parents, those who were parents, the name of those who were the name of those who were great. Parents means great, the name of the great ones. Now verse 6 in chapter 6 speaks of how it was appointed Yahuwah, this one deity, who is now in the physical form, regretted his involvement and state that it was Nahum. It repented, and he regretted that he had made and helped made these people and put himself into them. That's the same thing as taking an artist and you help them get to the top and they become a monster. And they use that knowledge, that knowing, that energy, that light to hurt people or to distract people or to detain people. See? And you sit back and say, wow. You know. That's how that was. You know, as a heavenly host, I can tell you the feelings of those because it's still in me as I read what happened. See, as I explain the unexplainable because that's my life. So even as I go like this, I'm sending healing energy to you. It will never be stopped. If you see it or if you don't see it, if you hear it or if you don't hear it, you see, it never is going to stop. See, and I command the demonic spirit to come out of you and to get back on track. I demand the spirit to leave you. This is what we do. This is what I do. They have no power over you. I demand that spirit to leave you right now. See? And we say Jesus, but it's just us. There is no word. I demand the evil to get out, and just us who have that special power, that Christ-like power, that Elohim, that Gobori power. And we smile, and we get that energy, and you take that energy, and you learn from this, and you be deprogrammed. And you stop to listen to those fools who lessons started what did it say? BCE, DC, after the death of Christ, and all of this, and you must go back to your roots. Okay. And he regretted that he had made the people on the planet Earth. This points out his regrets is that he made the people in the image, in his image. You have the power, you have to use it. Power to the people. The word power is the rulership. The power is ruach, your soul, sound, energy, electromagnetic energy that you be. You have that power. You have that energy going up and down right there. See that? Right there, up and down. That's the energy going up and down, up and down. You have that power. I'll show you. See? That's the power that you have. That's the energy that you have. Okay? He made man, we made man in our image. And that man's involvement with the disagreeable sons, called cherubims, has made man ra, which means disagreeable or evil continuously. So now you can get a clear picture at this point of this transition of the names and how they imply plural, singular, physically, physical, and display emotions of regret and repentance. Make note that in Genesis 6, chapter 7, verse, that it goes that the Yahuwah that is going to destroy the Adamites. And that in verse 8, Noah found grace in the eyes of the Yahuwah. Because in verse 9, Noah walked with the Elohim. And verse 11 points out that the earth was corrupted before the sight of the Elohim, not Yahuwah. And that the Elohim looked upon the earth in verse 12, and that the Elohim gave the order in verse 13 to destroy. The Elohim gave order in verse 13 to the Yahuwah of verse 7 to destroy. And verse 22 tells how Noah obeyed the Elohim but carried out the orders given to him by the one appointed in charge, the Yahuwah, as Genesis 7:1 makes clear. Now, Genesis 7:5 says Noah did what he was commanded by Yahuwah. And verse 9 tells you that it was the Elohim that gave that command. And verse 16 makes it clear that the Elohim, a group, had commanded him to build this ark. But the fact that the Yahuwah, which means Shuga, which means shut him in, means that the Yahuwah was on earth when the Taba, or the ark, was finished being built. And he closed the physical door of the ark again, confirming that Yahuwah, as he says in Genesis 6:3, he is also now flesh. So this is what we're saying here. We're saying it's time to get right. We're saying it's time to repent. It's time to be reprogrammed. As we begin to do what we do, say what we say, and play like we need to play. Okay, now finally, and Genesis 8:1 picks up, and the Elohim remembered Noah and every living thing, and the Elohim made a wind pass over the earth, and the waters with shakak decreased or ceased, decreased or ceased, which is called assuaged. Now in verse 15 and 16, the Elohim allows them to come forth out of the ark. And that's what we get ready to do. We get ready to come out the ark because the ark was built in 1977. The ark was built in 1977, and those who came in and took and did and whatever, the flood is here, and the flood was the flood of all kind of information, getting you all into all kind of things that was not pertinent to what you need to be doing. So now as we walk out the ark and we began to be the overseers of the planet Earth, taking our rightful place, sister, brother, learn to live with one another. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not be disrespectful to your mama and your daddy. All these laws were already written, and the man-made laws, which is called the state, took those laws and tried to dismiss them. Out of the ark, Noah builds an altar to Yahuwah and makes a burnt offering. And this burnt offering smells a sweet savior, meaning that in his soul, Rahuk, he was contented with the scent of the burning offer. Again, this Yahuwah had nostrils. This Yahuwah had a sense of smell, which he was a physical deity. And that's the part where people do not want to realize that the heavenly hosts are physical, representing the etherical, the ethers, and those who are into debating, want to be better, want to capitalize. And we're going to talk about that at another time. We're going to continue reading this. We're going to stay as close to this as possible. And we're not going to deviate, but we're going to use our rightful space to intune those who are shortly off the path to return to righteousness. In Genesis 9 chapter first, the Elohim again blessed Noah and tells him to marley. The word marley means to replenish or refill the planet Earth. And this is what we get ready to marley. We get ready to marley. We get ready to replenish the earth. We get ready to start teaching. We're going to start with the 7 rural districts. The first one is going to be on the Mississippi. It's going to be at what we call, or near what we call the Archway. The Archway will be the new gateway towards what we call the Orion stars, the heaven. The Mississippi will be the conduit or the conductor of water for the energy and the light of the message to reiterate and circulate throughout the globe. We're dealing with a globalization of truth, a globalization of love and harmony for all those who breathe our air, who drink the water, who live off of Gia, which is the earth, Ki. So within that is called Malay. Then in Genesis 9, Elohim again blessed Noah and tells him to Malay, which means to replenish or refill the planet Earth. At this point, he becomes the new Adam, which was the 6th Nubian Adam. In verse 5, where they get the word man, it is used again. We get Adamites, not Enosites or Enosites. In verse 6, it says, in the image of the Elohim made he the Adamites. So after the flood, the Enosite had perished, and it's the rebirth of the Adamites in the image of the Elohim as the first seed was. And in verse 8 to 13, the Elohim established a new Berith. The word Berith means covenant. The word bereith means agreement. It's a contractual agreement. It's an oral agreement. Okay. So he made a bereath, which is a covenant with Noah and his seed, and with all the earth. So this is where we talking about sister, brother, learn, live. We talking about everyone. We're not just talking about when they say black. Black is a political statement. Black, the word black is actually the word block. See, which is jargon or vocabulary word for what we call the state. The state is something that's made up and not is man-made. It's not the church, which is the church consists of celestial. The state is deal with terrestrial, all right, or territorial, terrestrial, which is earth. Okay, that's why I say when you're extraterrestrial, that means you have something extra on earth. You see, and when you're territorial, that means right. When you say when you're a terrorist, that means you want to make changes to the territories that's established by those who are in control or those who feel that they are continual rule on the surface, but they don't rule because what rules is the elements. The elements, the wind, the rain, things of that nature, the elements are deities. Like the wind is my friend. See, the water is my friend. See, we're talking about water. Now we're talking about air. We're talking about air inside the wind. We're not talking about the force of the wind. We're talking about the air that's inside the wind. So it's a lot of things that's not explained because the people don't have the extrasensory perception to perceive it. And those who claim to be and then claim not to be, but took the reins to control the masses of the people, those are the ones that have problems. But the deeds of those will be counted. And there's certain people that just got up and was straight consumers all their life. Straight consumers. Then it was those who by birth were royal. And the word royal means powerful. So by birth they were powerful. By birth it was already written by the meteorologists that something's going on at this time, this location, just like the Magi or the wise men were looking at the stars, astrology, to determine what was going on Earth. When man makes something out of his imagination and it doesn't help in corralling that which is determined by the unseen to manifest on earth, that's when they are not agreeable but disagreeable. So as we continue with the synopsis of Genesis, we're going to read Genesis. But right now we're just going through this so you can hear the breast of it. And on your mark is set. Some people jumped the gun. They cheated, got relaxed, and they thought they won. But this right here, this is not a test. This is the real deal. Okay? So now, in verse 6 of chapter 7, chapter 8, and chapter 9. Okay. So after the flood, the Enochites had perished. The Enochites, they perished. The Enochites perished in the flood. The Enochites, those from Enoch, right, that was down with Seth. After Seth, Abel killed Seth. Then you had Seth and you had the Enochites. There was a different type of people. Those people was the ones that needed help. They were endowed with melanation and given the power of absorption for the energy to share, which is love. So after the flood, the Enochites had perished, and the rebirth of the Adamites in the image of the Elohim as the first seed was. And in verse 8 to 13, the Elohim established a new covenant with Noah and his seed, and with all the earth that was on it. So they established a new covenant. And the Elohim gave them a sign or token of this covenant. And he said Kashif, which is a arch-shaped object within the clouds. So now, this is when we get Royal Arch recording, which is the archway that we're establishing with the New Africa movement. This New Africa movement will be headed by the brother who will provide the reprogramming of all those on the planet Earth who are destined to rise and be supreme on the planet Earth, the overseers of the many tribes on the planet Earth. Okay? So this oath or sign or token of the covenant is the arch, which is the same cylinder craft that protected Israel in Exodus, the book of Exodus, 13th chapter 21, the book of Exodus, 14th chapter, the 19th verse, the book of Exodus, 40th chapter, 36 to 37 verse. Or this, the mother ship or the mother plane called Nibiru. And in Genesis 9:14 tells you that he's going to bring Nibiru back in a large cloud over the earth, that the crystal city, which is a large dome-shaped craft, shall be seen in the cloud. And that the Elohim told Noah in verse 16 through 17 that this arch or bow, rainbow as in the crystal city, shall be illuminated through the clouds as a covenant that he will remember every living creature of all flesh, and that there should be no more floods. This is a covenant between Elohim and every creature on earth because of the great event. Verse 20 tells you that Noah planted a vineyard celebrating and became drunk with the wine, which led to the curse of Canaan. In verse 24 through 29. Prior to that, all the people that came about were melanated. All the people were melanated. After that, those who reverted back to the animalistic qualities were destined to have five senses and were under the high priest who were under the heavenly host. So you have the heavenly host, then you have the high priest, then you have the priest, then you have the people. And you have the priest and the priestess. And this is how it is. This is how it was. This is how it shall always be on earth. Okay. During the bara, or procreation, the birth of a new tribe, which is called Adamites. During the bara, or procreation period of the planet Earth, these Elohim, which is called Anunnaki, reconstructed two places up in the skies where there is water. In the quote above, the word beginning, which is in the Aramic Hebrew, is Rashith. The word Rashith means beginning. Rashith means the first time of something. So when it is said in the beginning, God created, it is falsely translated. They use created, but in the Aramic Hebrew, where they have create, there is really the word bara, which really means to recreate, to procreate, or simply the making, a reconstruction, the procreation period, or bara. Is not the same as Khalika. The word Khalika is for creation or the creation period, which is found in Ashuric or Syriac, which is Arabic, the word Khalik, meaning to create. The same as in Hebrew, Khalika, which simply because it wasn't the first time, Baraka or Bara. It is the word used in Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 2, in reference to the reconstruction period of Tam-2 or Tamat. After that, it had became Tuhu, which means empty, and Buhu, which means desolate, as the book of Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, 23rd verse, and to the 28th verse speaks about. 23rd verse to the 28th verse speaks about. That those verses was removed and makes clear. Now the word bara also means the maker, from which you get the 12th attribute al-bari, meaning the maker, which is found in El's Holy Quran, 87th Surah, 54th ayat. This word al-bari means your maker, as in bari ikum. This is the same word as bara in Genesis 1:1. So you see, they play games with these words. Thus, the creation story that was conveyed to you in Genesis chapter 1 is not the original creation story, but a recreation or a reconstruction, which is bara, meaning to procreate, and is not khalaqa, which means to create. Okay? Now, the missing verses. Most people were never told that verse 6 of the book of Jeremiah, which is the 4th chapter, that the 6 verses of the book of Jeremiah, 4th chapter, 23 to the 28, was intentionally taken out of Genesis 1:1. I will now insert it back in its proper place, and you be the judge. Now it states, I saw the planet Earth in Hinme, and Hinme, and the word Hinme means low, or oh, okay? It was Tuhu, it was empty, and Buhu, it was desolate. Tuhu means empty, and Buhu means desolate. And the Shamayim, or Shamahim, which means heavenly skies, and Yin means day, had no Ori, or light. I saw Har, mountains, and lo, the Ra'ash, they trembled, the mountains trembled, and all the Gib'ah, the hills, Qualah, they moved lightly. I looked, and lo, there was no Adam, there was no earthling, and all the Afi, or the fowls of the heavenly skies, Nadam, Nadad, the word Nadad, Nawdad, means gone. I looked, and lo, the land of Cadmon, or Carmel, which is the fruitful garden, was Midbar, it was wilderness. And all the which means cities, of it were Naphats. It was broken down at the Famine, or the presence of a Yahuwah, and by his fierce anger. For thus has a Yahuwah said, the Kuli, which means the whole Eretz, the planet Earth, will be Sha'amu, desolate, but I will not make a total end. For this reason will the Eretz, or the planet Earth, Abba, mourn, and Shamahim, the heavenly skies, Mach'al, above the Chadar. The word Chadar means black. Because I have Debar, I have spoken. I have Zaman, I have planned it, and will not be Nacham, sorry, neither will I Shub turn back from this decision. Genesis below is a duplicate of Jeremiah 4:23, which is the blueprint of creation. Because the planet Earth, also called Tamat, had become Tuhu, empty, and Buhu, desolate, and no sunshine, no sunlight shine through the dust clouds on the surface of Tamat waters for 6,000 years, which was created by the great meteorite that hit the planet Earth, and the wind of the Elohim ship called Nibiru hovered upon the surface of the water and blew and moved the black dust clouds that blocked the sun. In the first day of creation, when the Elohim asked for light to exist, the sun was already created to that 93 billion years ago. That was a black dust cloud which encircled around the earth, which did not allow the sun to penetrate into the earth. So in Genesis chapter 1, verse 4, verse 14 through 16, when it speaks about the sunlight showing forth, and it mentions the creation of the sun, the moon, and the stars, meaning that now that they were able to see the skies, because the black dust cloud caused by the meteorites that hit the earth 2,250,000 years ago was moved according to Genesis 1:2. And these beings pleaded and said to the Most High, Yahweh, let exist Ori, which means the light, and the light existed. And the Elohim Anunnaki saw how Toby agreeable the condition would be with the light again. So they Badal separated the light from Chashak, from the darkness. The Elohim Anunnaki called out amongst each other, the light is daytime, and the darkness is Lachil, or shadow hours. And as the result, that there was Erib, dusk, and the beginning of a new Yom. The word Yom means day. And that took one period of 7,000 years. The two waters, clouds, and oceans. The Earth's atmosphere or air is composed of gases, ammonia, which is nitrogen and hydrogen. We're going to say that again. We're going to teach this. The Earth's atmosphere or air is composed of the Earth's atmosphere or air is composed of gases, ammonia. Now, ammonia, which is nitrogen and hydrogen, is methane, which is carbon and hydrogen, and water, which is hydrogen and oxygen. At this point, the Earth was still a burning hot mass, and there was a mixture of gases which formed rings around the Earth. These many rings, which contain heavy carbon and minerals, had rings that had hydrocarbons still farther from the Earth. The outermost ring was water. Air is a mist. It was separated from the waters upon the planet Earth. The purpose of Rachia, or the filament, was to part the waters above and below it, meaning that it separated the waters which were surrounding the planet Earth from the waters which was upon the planet Earth. Its separation is called the asteroid belt, or the necklace of the sky. This firmament extended, and it became known today as Shamachim, or meaning the sky. So we're going to read that again, and I want you to read it again to yourself. I want you to write it down so you will know it. But we're going to read it again because we have nothing but time. I am Father Time, and we do have time. And we will take our old body and make it brand new. We will line up our chakras and tune up our mind so the spark of love will shine through your eyes. The Earth atmosphere. Let's see if we can get this here. Let's see if we can make it happen like a cat will make it happen. There you go. Let's see. Make it happen like a cat will make it say. Right, there you go. Still gotta, you know. You be like, yeah, you know. I like that right there. I like that right there. Right there it is. Okay. The Earth's atmosphere is composed of gas and ammonia, which is nitrogen and hydrogen. The Earth's atmosphere or air is composed of gases, which is ammonia, which is nitrogen and hydrogen, methane, which is carbon and hydrogen, and water, which is hydrogen and oxygen. At this point, the Earth was still a burning hot mass, and there was a mixture of gases which formed rings around the earth. These many rings, which contained heavy carbon and mineral, had rings that had hydrocarbons still further from the earth. The outermost ring was water. Air is a mist. It was separated from the waters upon the planet Earth. The purpose of Rahia, or the firmament, was to part the waters above and below it, meaning that it separated the waters which was surrounding the planet Earth from the waters which were upon the planet Earth. Its separation is called the asteroid belt, or the necklace of the sky. The firmament extended and it became known today as Shamahim. The word Shamahim means sky. And Elohim commanded the Rachia, the firmament, which is the asteroid belt, to be in the middle of this solar system between Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. These two sets of planets with water so that they would separate the Ma'im, or the water on the planet Earth, which is below, from the water on the planet Earth above the clouds. And the Elohim Anunnaki made a arch firmament like a beaded necklace, an asteroid belt in the sky visible, and Badal, the word Badal means separated, and Badal separated between the two waters. One which was Takath beneath, and the beaten out firmament Mercury, which is Mumu. Venus was Lahamu. Earth, Tamat. Mars, Lamu. From the others, which was Al, the word Al means above, which is Jupiter, Kashar, Saturn, Anshar, Uranus, Mashig, and Neptune, Ea. And this happened. Okay, so we're going to read it again because we know that in learning, you really need to read again. Okay? So, and the Elohim commanded the Rakika, the firmament, which is the asteroid belt, to be in the middle of the solar system between Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and the two sets of planets with water, so that it would separate Ma'im, the water on the planet Earth, which is below, from the water on the planets above and the clouds. And the Elohim Anunnaki made an arch firmament like a beaded necklace, an asteroid belt in the skies visible, and Badal separated between the two waters. One which was Tachath beneath, the beaten out firmament, which was Mercury, which is called Mumu. So Mercury is Mumu. Mercury is Mumu. Venus is Lahamu. Venus is Lahamu. Venus is Lahamu. Earth is Tamat. Earth is Tamat. Mars is Lamu. And the others which was above was Jupiter, which is Kashar, Saturn, which was Anshar, Anshar is Saturn. Uranus is Mashag. And Neptune is Ea. And this happened. The collection of waters. And the Elohim Anunnaki named Rachika, the filaments. So the word Rachika is the filaments. Shamahin, which is skies. The word Shamahin means skies. And it was Erib, dusk, period. And the new second Yom, or the day of 7,000 years, was over. And the Elohim Anunnaki said amongst each other, the waters beneath the sky are to be brought together as Echad. Echad means one. It become together as Echad, one mass, as oceans, rivers, streams, and lakes. Oceans, river, streams, lakes. Oceans, river, streams, and lakes. Oceans, river, streams, and lakes. Ocean, rivers, streams, and lakes. And they let the dry lands be seen, and this happened. And the Elohim Anunnaki called out that the planet Earth will be called dry ground, which is called land mass, or Ki. And the waters that were gathered together, they called after Yam, the seas, or Tamet. And Elohim Anunnaki saw that things this way were Toby, or agreeable. And the Anunnaki Elohim said amongst each other, let the planet Earth, Ki, now spread seeds in them in order to yield new seeds. And the fruit there should grow with seeds in them from the land mass. And all this happened. So the planet Earth did bring forth grass and herbs with seeds in themselves, and great trees within itself. And the Elohim Anunnaki saw that things this way were agreeable. And it was dusk period, the new third day of 7,000 years was over. The first calendar for seasons. The quote below, Genesis 1st chapter, 14 verse, the word light in Aramaic Hebrew is Mawari. The word Mawari, M-A-W-O-R-E, Mawari means illuminating light. Illuminating light. Was now able to shine through, because illuminate means to supply with light. This light, which is the sun, is the Kadori, meaning greater light. Kadori means greater light. And then you have the moon and the stars, which were also made visible. This Mawari, or illuminating light, as mentioned in Genesis 1st chapter, 14 verse, is different from the Ori, which is the light mentioned in Genesis 1st chapter, 3rd verse. So the point again, as I stated before, that this Genesis 14, 1st chapter, 14 to the 16, is just merely saying that now the sun, moon, and the stars, which was already created millions of years ago, are now being made visible because of the movement of the black dust cloud, which is Genesis 1st chapter, 2nd verse, which caused the light to more watery to illuminate, to Mawari, to shine through. So the word Mawari means to illuminate. And the Elohim and Anunnaki said amongst each other, let the Mawari, the illuminating light, exist in the Rakah, the feminine, Rachia, which means the feminine, of the skies in order for Badal to separate between the Yom day, the light hours, and between the Lachil, which is the shadow hours. And let them be as a elf or signal of the Moed, which means seasons, of Yom, which means days, and Shani, the years, which is time for this planet, 4 and 20 hours in a day, 4 and 20,000 years in an equinox. 4 and 20 hours in a day, 4 and 20,000 years in an equinox. The sunlight shines on the planet Earth again as Mawari, illuminating lights, and the Rashia, and the feminine of the skies to shine the Ori, the light, upon the planet Earth, and this happened. And the Elohim Anunnaki caused the Kadoli. Kadoli means the order or older, and the brighter light to be seen. So it's saying here that the older light to be seen in the sky in order to overpower the daytime, and the younger light, Khatar, the lesser brightness to be seen through the shadow hours. They also made other stars visible. The Elohim Anunnaki made them appear in and to overpower the day and the shadow hours. Light from the shadow hours, and the Elohim Anunnaki saw the things this way were agreeable. And it was just period, and the fourth day of the 7,000 years was over. How can there be days and nights, beginning all the way from Genesis 1:3 to Genesis 1:13, if the sun, moon, and the stars was not created or made visible to give light upon the earth until the fourth day, or the 28,000 year in the creation of the earthling, which is Genesis 1:19. This obviously must be talking about two different kinds of days, which is stated before in Psalms, the 90th chapter, 1 through the fourth verse. So in Psalms, the book of Psalms, the 90th chapter, verse 1 through 4, speaks of a different timeline, the timeline of the Elohim. So the book of Psalms, 90th chapter, 1 through the fourth verse, speaks of a different time, as the Elohim Adonai days, which is 1,000 years. And now earthling days, Genesis 1:14 through the 19th verse, which are ruled by seasons, days, and years. So the point is that there are two different time periods being discussed here. Genesis chapter 1 is a blueprint of Genesis chapter 2 because in order to create something, he had to first create the state of nothing in order to place something in it. As the lightest atom was the hydrogen atom, and now they have the quark, which is in a state of nothingness before something lighter than the lightest atom, and beyond the quark, nothingness still exists today until discovered. Thus, the beginning was made to exist by the science of the square and the circle. Now we're going to be speaking about the filling of the seas and the skies. And the Elohim Anunnaki said amongst each other, let the waters breed abundantly all kinds of swimming creatures with living spirits. And they placed the life germ in the waters, and in time from this, birds are to fly above the planet Earth in the open skies. The recreation of whales and dinosaurs. Early Earth was composed of gases, ammonia, methane, and water. The cooling of the Earth and the subsequent falling of vapor rings allowed these gases to reach the water that were upon the Earth. The exposure of ultraviolet rays from the sun caused these gases to form simple organic molecules, which formed large molecules until protein was formed. It was this formation which resulted in the prototype of the living cell 46 billion years ago. The stage after the creation of the first cell in the lab of T was located on Lamu, which is Mars. These cells were then placed inside the Vulcan, which was Meldikian deity, which is the dolphin, whose real name is Hut. It was these cells that was transplanted and transported into the seeds of the planet. This transportation involved the development of the first animals 24 billion years ago. After these was single cell organism known as protozoa. The word proto meaning first in time and zoa meaning animals. The first single cell animals to originate was the amoeba. The next group of animal was the metazoans. 24 trillion years after, the metazoans are composed of tissues, organs, and systems. These animals multiplied and diversified, and over a period of 19 million years, evolved into many types of creatures and animals. This was the first creation of life on the planet Earth. They were all destroyed by the Ice Age and the volcanoes, earthquakes, wars, and bloodshed between the tribes of Earth and even beings as Maldikians and Vulcans who lived beneath Tamtu. One of the original names of the planet Tamtu is Earth, was called Tamat by the Anunnaki, named after the wife of Apsu, the parents of Anshar and Kishar, the parents of Anu and Antum. The Maldikians came to the planet and took residence underneath the seas from Maldek, the 11th planet ruled by the Dracons or dragon people called reptilians or Luciferians, Halalians. So Tamet or Tamtu or Tam, the water planet, was destroyed 17,250,000 years ago. The second creation or repopulation after the large meteorite hit 2,250,000 years ago constituted consisted of two types of survivors. You had the prehistoric amphibious animal and the intelligent prehistoric man called Tamtuans. The intelligent prehistoric man survived because he was instructed by the elders, the heavenly hosts, who were called Elohim, and those that listened survived to go underground into shelters. This is where they survived until the temperatures became suitable and the air was clean to return to the surface. And the Elohim and Anunnaki pre-created Tanin, the old dragon sea serpents, a sea serpent dinosaur, and all living spirits, amoebas, algae, and fungus that swim, which the waters bred from itself, and all the winged birds, Petrodactylus, from themselves, and that the Elohim and Anunnaki saw that things this way were agreeable, and the Elohim and Anunnaki put their blessings on them all by saying, procreate and multiply. And we fill the waters in the seas, and the birds are to multiply in the planet Earth. And it was dust period, the new fifth day, another 7,000 years was over. Now we have the breeding of life forms, and Elohim, the Anunnaki, said amongst each other, let the planet Earth bring forth living spirits from itself, non-speaking mammals and reptiles also living on the planet Earth. And this happened. And the Elohim Anunnaki made to evolve all the living animals that appeared on the planet Earth, breed from themselves, and non-speaking mammals breed from themselves, and all the creeping things upon the Adama, or the ground, which is called the planet Earth, breed from themselves. And the Elohim Anunnaki saw that things this way were agreeable. Notice that the quotes above, when it speaks about creation, the Elohim Anunnaki saw that things were agreeable. But when it comes to creation of the earthlings, which are the Adamites, they did not say that things were agreeable. And the Elohim Anunnaki said amongst themselves, now let's us saw, the word us saw means to breed, by cloning people. Lu Amalu, a Homo sapien of this planet Earth, which was the Adamites, Tashlim, which means looking, just like ourselves, the Anunnaki, and Demuth. The word Demuth means acting like ourselves. And we will give them rulership over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, and over all the non-speaking mammals and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth. Now, in the quote below, Genesis 1:27, the Elohim Anunnaki Menti procreated Homo sapiens, first called Nubians, Nubuns, then became Nubians of the Adamites, from the Homo erectus, which had 6 ether hair, and the original Anunnaki with 9 ether hair to look like herself, using her own divine seed, Menti, giving Nubians 9 ether, and acting like herself. The Anunnaki procreated them into one they called Adam, called also Kadam or Zakar, who had 8 ether, and Nicobar, called also Hawa or Eve, who had 9 ether. So in Genesis 1:27, when it speaks about the cloning or the procreation of Adamites, you know it was plural because the word was athum, meaning them, and plural, not dual. There is a point that is being ignored in the Torah, which refers to the human as Adam ha-Adon, a common term defining a certain species, which is the Homo, from the Latin meaning man, and sapien from the Latin sapere, meaning wise, which comes from the same root as seraphim and serpent, called by the Anunnaki Lulu, which in ancient Sheretic means foul, ugly, or deformed. This was grafted from the cuneiform, and Amalu, which means do or worker, also from the Sheretic into the Arabic. Both words can be found in the Aramic Hebrew as well, and was the cuneiform expression Lulu, Amalu, which is primitive, which is a worker, and which is foul, word ugly. It also says a doer. And these names were given to the person Adam, which is also called Cadman or Chadman, by the Elohim Anunnaki. Now in Genesis 2:19, the word Adam is being used as Ha-Adam in the Aramic Hebrew, but you know it is referring to Kadam because they use the tense he, which is a pronoun, whereas in the beginning of the same quote it says, out of the Adama, or out of the ground. The word used here is ha-adawa, meaning of the ground or earthling. From the same root Adam or Adon or Adama, all the earthlings are used in Genesis 1st chapter, 21st verse, 25th verse, where it says, and everything that creepeth upon the Adama, which means ground. After who it means his, or who means a kind or species. Now, this Adama, again, is the earthlings, the people of the ground, who were ashar, or made after their mean, species, or kind. And this tense being used is who, meaning his, mean, or species. There is also mention in El's Holy Quran in the 23rd Surah, 45th ayat, where it says, and surely he, Khalik, created our Zawjin, the pairs al Zaka, forgetful male, and Zaka, Adam, Kadam, the Utha, second part, female, Nikuba, or Hawa. The Quran of the Mohammedans put it in a singular form, and they leave out the fact that the Torah, from where they copy this story, the Hebrew makes it clear that in Genesis 5th chapter, 2nd verse, is added, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam. The words there and them is plural, not dual. And it talking about the group of people which were Adamites or Canaanites or Canaanites, which is a tribal name. And there were Behaman of Genesis, first chapter, 25th verse, which were the beasts of Shaddai. Now the word Shaddai means outer field. When you go down to Genesis first chapter, 26th verse, and you will see that Adam as mankind, humankind, human being, which is simply the cloning of the Homo sapien, where it says, and Elohim God, let us ashore make Adam, or the Adamites, Homo sapien, falsely translated as men, in our image, after our demuth, our likeness, and let him, them, not him, have dominion over the fish of the sea. This quote is making it clear that this is speaking about the cloning of Homo sapiens. Notice after the Elohim ashore made or fashioned the Ammonites, it says, and let him or him, which means them, have dominion, which is rulership over the dog, D-A-W-G, which is being translated as fish. But the root gives you daga, meaning multiplication of living things in the sea. This is says something the Adamites were here to rule the reptilians of the sea, the deity Dagon. The name dog is the first part of the Philistine deity Dagon. Dagon is found in the book of Judges, the 16th chapter, the 23rd verse, and in the 1st Samuel, the 5th chapter, 2nd to the 4th verse. The fishman, which is another name for Dagon, is Leviathan. Now, Leviathan, as mentioned in the book of Job, the 41st chapter, the 1st verse, the book of Job, 41st chapter, the 1st verse, which describes the reptilian and how he is worshipped by the seed of the Enosh. Also, this Leviathan from the Aramic Hebrew means sea monster, dragon, from the root lashar or lawa. And the word lawa, L-A-W-W-A-W, L-A-W-W-A-W, L-A-W-W-A-W means law. Okay, lawa means law. Okay, now Lawa means to unite, to remain. The Leviathan is mentioned in Psalms 104:26, Psalms 104:26, and Psalms 74:14. So that's Psalms 104:26 and Psalms 74:14, where it speaks of the breaking the head of the Leviathan, which takes you back to Genesis 3:15 in reference to the serpent and his seed, and how the seed of Eve, which is Hua, or Hawa, or Eve, or evolution, will bruise the serpent's head, as in the breaking the head of Leviathan. And in the book of Isaiah 27, chapter 1st verse, literally calls Leviathan the piercing serpent. And the word for serpent there is Nachash, the same as in Genesis 3rd chapter 1 for the word devil. And these are the Lutherians, as mentioned in the book of Isaiah 14 chapter 12 verse, where it states, "How art thou fallen from the heaven, O Lucifer, Halal, son of the morning, Shakar? How art thou cut down to the ground, Eretz," meaning the planet Earth, which did weaken all nations. And verse 13 tells you how he wanted to be above the throne of the stars of El, which would be above all the other Elohim or Anunnakis. This 13th verse is why 13 is considered to be a bad luck number to many. So as Genesis 1:26 declares that this man Adam to be created in the image and after the likeness of the Elohim is Homo sapiens or Adamites, because it uses the pronoun them, and it is the plural form, not singular form, which shows that this is not talking about the Elohim fashioning Adam, but again, I make note that it is in the plural form using them, meaning Adamites, the Lulu Amelu. Now in Genesis 3rd chapter, 17 verse, it is speaking about Cadmon, where it says, "And unto Adam," or Adam, which is Cadmon or Zaka, he said, "Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. And sorrow thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life." Then the important word being used is "thou hast hearkened," or thy wife. That is using the singular form thou, which is different from Genesis 1:26, using the plural form them. If you go to Genesis 5th chapter, first verse, you will see that the word begins with "this is the Shafir, or the book of the Toledor, or genealogies of Adam. Adam, which is the Cadmonites, and this in the day of the Elohim, which is God, Bara, we created, falsely translated as created, Adam falsely translated as man, which are Homo sapiens, which is the earthlings, and the Demuth, likeness of the Elohim, which is Ashur. The word Ashur means made he him. This is making a direct differentiation between the Adamites, which were Adam's tribe, and the Homo sapiens, which was before them. And the 27, and Elohim Anunnaki, Nudaman, or Inki, Israel, the one appointed for the breeding, appointing of the Elohim Anunnaki, Nenti, for procreating people, or Homo sapiens of the Ha-Adam, the Adamites, from the Homo erectus to Tashlim, or to look like herself, using her own divine seed. Ninti, who was a seraphim, who converted to a cherubim, said, "Here, you have been given every Eshab, every herb with a yielding seed, which is on the surface of the whole planet Earth, and every tree which yields fruit, and has its own zera." Zera means seed, to reproduce. All of this is for your food. Allah. Okay? Zaka and Nikobar was appointed as vegetarians, herbivores, not carnivores or flesh eaters that eat off the blood of other creatures, but to maintain their olive hue by chlorophyll of the herb being born copper red, to purify into an olive tone green. And every kiha living animal of the planet Earth, and to every bird of the skies, and to everything that Rama swims on the planet Earth, and which there is nefresh, chahim, a living spirit, every yarek, green, vegetation is the akhlor, or the food, and this happened. The Elohim Anunnaki Rahwa or saw all things that was Asor fashioned, and here it was all very Tobal or Toby, which means agreeable for them. And it was Ereb, Dush, period. And the new 6th Yom day of 7,000 years was over. Now, we're going to speak about the wrong order 2:1 and the right translation 132 of Genesis. In El's Holy Quran, chapter 39:54, where ties in with Genesis 1:31-32, it states that the 6 days of creation, which is the 6 days of creation of earthlings' time, not the Elohim, the Adoni's time. Your Rav sustainer, who is in the Torah, would be a Yahuwah or Allah, established himself on the Arsh, which means the throne. So according to Genesis 1:3, all of the Tashwaba, or the heavenly host, living beings, were prepared or finished after the 6th day of creation of earthlings' time, according to Genesis 1:31. The host helping the Elohim Adoni with the creation of the earthling was Malakut, or Anunnaki, angelic Elohims. So the skies and the planet Earth was prepared, and all the hosts, the living beings of both of them. So the heavenly host, as you now see, was prepared way before those who were not agreeable decided to infiltrate, decided to perpetrate, and claim to be that which they're not. So the 6th day, which represents the 6th, which is the vowel wa, which is wa, which means joining, which is in correlation to the 6 sextillion tons of the weight of the planet, was completed the host to help those on the planet Earth. According to Genesis 1:33, on the 7th day, which is the end of the period of creation, the word used in this quote for the Elohim is referring to Shabbath, which means to deceased, not rest, like in fatigue or sleep. This desisting is when the Elohim left Earth to go to the Orient skies and back on to Ilium, the heavenly abode, which took 3,600 years, which is called a Shah, a unit in the Anunnaki's time. And it will take another 3,000, 6,000 years to return back to Earth from Ilium, which is 3,600 plus 3,600, which equals to 7,200 years, 7,000 years for the ending of the creation period called the last day. And the extra 200 years from the 7,200 years is where the Elohim remained on earth after explosion of the Adam and his family as Adamites from the enclosed garden into the outer world called Shaddai. Now Genesis 3:22 makes it clear that the man Cadman had become like the Yahuwah Elohim, having his own willpower to make decisions. The us being cherubims and cherubims, then in Genesis 6:6, this Yahuwah called Tammuz had to repent, which is Nacham, for being involved in making of the human beings that has become disagreeable like the cherubims, showing that a Yahuwah was still on earth up until that time, even after invasion of the Nephilims and the Gabori. After this period of 200 years, they departed. The mothership went back to Ilium, meaning the place on high, as mentioned in El Quran, 83rd ayat, 19th chapter. And the shuttlecraft was still coming back and forth to earth. So when Genesis 1:33 speaks about the Elohim desisting, it is just saying that they finished the cloning and the procreation of the earthling and departed for the throne. 33. On the Shibi seventh Yom day, on the Shibi, which is seventh, and Yom, which means day, the Elohim Inki, who is also called Nu Demud or Israel of the Anunnaki, Halal, finished his malakah or his duty, which he had ashore done, and he Shabbat desisted and kept the Sabbath and the seventh day from all his malakah or his duties which he had ashore or done. Now the first holy day. The wrong order is 2:3, but the right translation is 134. The Sabbath or Shabbat, the seventh day, which is the 49,000th year, was called Shadeth or Chadeth, which means holy. After the place Kadesh, which is known as today as Jerusalem. Now Jerusalem was Shemti, which was the cloning process of the Homo erectus into Homo sapiens, which took 600 years. Now, Kadesh is where the actual breeding ceremony of the two chiefs bringing their wives together and the breeding of the children for 19 years took place. The male child, Kadam, called Zaka and Adam, the Kushite and the Hindu, was 3 years older than the female called Nicobar, Hawa, and Eve. She was a Hawalite and Fatite. He was 21. She was 18 years of age when they moved from Kadesh, also Kadesh. The Sabbath was sanctified by the Elohim Anunnaki and was kept that day Kadesh or holy by reading from the holy tablets as a form of zakah. Now the word zakah also means remembrance. And the Elohim Inki blessed the seventh day and declared it Kadesh, holy, because in it he, Shabbat, desisted from all the malakah, or the duties which the Elohim Anunnaki had, bara, procreated, and done. Now, chapter 2, the genealogy of the skies. Wrong order 2-4, right order 2-1. Those Elohim Anunnaki all are the genealogy of the skies. Now Ritz of Elohim, the planet of another galaxy, and the planet of Earth Ki. They were reconstructing and procreating in the day that Yahuwah of the Elohim Anunnaki made the planet Earth and its skies reappear. First, you must know that there were no chapters or verses in the original scrolls of the tablets. This arrangement was made by human beings. This verse is describing how the whole page 1, which is Genesis chapter 1, was about, the blueprint, and how the process is not one day or 1 year, but is a 49,000 year project that must evolve into existence. 49,000 years starts at the end of the sixth day, 40, 42,000 years, giving us the period of 7,000 years of which we are living in now, which is called a Sabbath, which in which to desist. Nothing had grown because Kadam, called also Zaka or Adam, was not in place yet. The breeding process was still taking place, and the Adamites had not been sent out. Thus is talking about what takes place in Genesis chapter 3, when after Cadmon and Nicobar was tempted by Nakash, then they were sent out of the enclosed garden, and he was to work by the sweat of his brow, according to Genesis 3:19. Thus, these first 5 verses, which are Genesis 1:32 and 2:2, literally confirms that the highest El already knew that Kadam, also called Zaka, also called Adam, was going to have to be put out of the enclosed garden to work as miners of the Adama, or the ground, and planted every shrub of the part of Shadeh. Now, Shadeh is the outer field outside the enclosed garden before they actually grown. Every herb before it had sprouted seeds because Yahuwah of the Elohim Anunnaki had not made Matar. Now, the word Matar means rain. It had not rained upon the planet Earth, and Adamite Homo sapien was not there yet to be ab or slave and work as miners of the ground. So a Adi or Ade, Ade, which means mist of water, clouds, Allah, which means ascended up from the planet Earth in order to irrigate as rain the whole surface of the Adama, which means ground, where the seeds had been planted. The cloning of a new breed. Adam's was comprised of different colors and properties from the surface of the ground. He was a black olive, as black as the shadow hour in the sky, in the skin tone of the original Asiatic black man, the Hindu. Yet he was reddish skin color, as black as the shadow hour in the sky, in in the shadow hour, in the skin tone of the original Asiatic black man, who is the Hindu. Yet the reddish skin color, thus, and where you get the name Adam or Edmund, meaning red or ruddy. The Yahuwah of the Elohim shaped Adam from Mentis Afwa, clot of granulated blood from the people of the ground. Cadmon was giving the breath of life. And Adam was born a spirit. When blood, which is damned, is clouded or dried, it becomes a dark brown, reddish powder. Once water is added to it, it liquefies again, and the life can be reanimated. That's why they're talking about the scientists who had to do this genetic breeding to make sure the woman was properly ovulating at the 3 month period of perfection and that the husband had his semen count up to par so they could produce these children, Kadam and Nicobar, which they would call out of the Adama ground. Zaka was created, and 3 years later, Nicobar from Zaka. This is talking about his cells. It is the male that controls the gender, XX or XY. The male has both X and Y. 33, which is 1/3, comes from the male, and 33, 1/3, comes from the female. 23 chromosomes from the male having X and Y's, and 23 chromosomes from the females having only active X. Where the male and the female comes together to have sex, the male ejaculates, and his X or Y chromosome determines the gender of the child. It will be so that the female comes out of the side or cell to the left side, XY equal X, or the Y to the right X. So Nicobar was taken out of Cadmon by the scientists Nigur and Shah Esther. The Elohim did the scientific part, and their part is the representatives on earth. They were responsible for the nursery. This being was to have a special mind, a special form, be in the image and likeness of the Elohim. This is why Yahuwah of the Elohim, Inki, was going to put a portion of himself into him to make him an Elohim on earth. That's also why they say Kayim with the two yads instead of one, and Kadmon, also called Zaka or Adam, became Nefresh, Cha, which is Nefresh, which is the spirit, and Cha with one yad, which is the living body, Ba, which is soul, and spirit means he is now divine and mortal. Before the birth of Adam or Nicobar, the Pygmy and Watusi came together and were known as Adamites and Kadesh, the holy place, being that they were both of the Adama or the ground. And we will continue reading this at a later time. Hope everybody get the drift. We'll put it there. Everybody gonna get a chance. First of all, it was a known fact. It was a known fact that you didn't know. It was a known fact that people was in a survival mode and will do anything to claim to be. So Escape Master Spark, I now gave you the 19th. Elohim Supreme Team. We're coming out and teaching what we call New Africa Reformation and Elohim Society. So those who have been touched, those who have been brought back, renewed, those who will be renewed, those new returning souls, those new birth, we're here and it's going to pop out and it's going to be okay.